They said it couldn't be done, or maybe they just hadn't seen the future yet. I'm the first American to acquire Maxwell Chikumbutso's MSED, and this isn't just about a purchase, it's about a paradigm shift. For years I've been chasing innovation, the kind that doesn't just impress, but redefines what's possible, and nothing quite prepared me for the moment I came across the MSED, a self-powered device that promised to rewrite the rules of energy itself. It all started in October 2025. Scrolling late at night, somewhere between curiosity and disbelief, I stumbled upon a clip of Maxwell Chikumbutso standing beside a compact, rectangular device speaking about energy without consumption. At first, I thought it was another overblown claim, the kind you see online and forget the next day. But something about it felt different. The presentation wasn't polished, but the conviction in his voice caught my attention. He wasn't just selling an idea, he was revealing something deeply personal, something that looked like the future. I paused the video. It's Mirella Weinberg replayed it, then paused again. Could this be real? A device that powers itself indefinitely, without fuel, without charging, without sunlight? My skepticism kicked in immediately. Years of tech marketing had trained me to doubt anything that sounded too good to be true, but curiosity has always been my greatest flaw and my greatest strength. So I started digging. I searched everything about Maxwell Chikumbutso, the Zimbabwean inventor behind Seth Technologies, a man whose work had already been labeled too advanced or too controversial. There were scattered reports, interviews, demonstrations, and conflicting opinions. Some called him a genius, others dismissed him as a dreamer. But even his critics couldn't ignore the technical depth of what he claimed to have built. I watched every clip, read every article, and joined forums where people debated whether his inventions were real or myth. Then I saw one video, a demo of the MSED powering a full setup of lights and devices disconnected from any grid, humming quietly like a heartbeat. That was the moment I knew I had to see it for myself. Not as a journalist, not as a tech enthusiast, but as someone who believed in the possibility that innovation doesn't belong to a single continent or corporation. It belongs to humanity. Still, one question lingered. Why me? Why would I, an American tech investor used to Silicon Valley's rhythm of startups and prototypes, be the first to buy an MSED from Zimbabwe? The answer was both personal and philosophical. Because I was tired of incremental change, because I was tired of companies pretending that sustainability and profit couldn't coexist, and because somewhere deep down I wanted to be part of something that felt real, something that wasn't just another upgrade but an evolution. The decision didn't happen overnight. For weeks, I talked to engineers, physicists, and energy experts asking if such a thing could exist. Most said no. Some laughed. A few paused and said, if it's real, it changes everything. That was enough for me. So I reached out to Seth Technologies. At first, I didn't expect a reply, but 3 days later, an email came through. The subject line read, "Thank you for your interest in MSED technology." It was short, professional, and cautiously open. The message invited me to discuss further, to understand what I was looking for, and to explain why I wanted to purchase the MSED. That was the beginning of a journey that would test my patience, my belief, and my understanding of what it means to take a leap of faith. Dealing with an international team across continents isn't easy. Time zones blurred, emails turned into video calls, and I quickly learned that acquiring something as advanced and as controversial as the MSED wasn't a simple transaction. There were protocols, export permissions, and security verifications. Seth Technologies was protective of its innovation, and rightly so. They had faced years of scrutiny and skepticism, and they weren't going to risk their credibility for just anyone with curiosity and cash. So I had to prove myself. I shared my background, my purpose, and how I intended to use the device responsibly. I wasn't buying it to resell or to expose it. I wanted to test it, study it, and understand it in real-world conditions. It took weeks of back-and-forth communication before we reached an agreement. Then came the logistics. The shipment had to go through special channels with documentation that bordered on classified. Every step felt like navigating uncharted territory. At times, I wondered if the deal would even go through. There were delays, sudden silences, and moments when I thought maybe it was never meant to happen. But persistence became my anchor. Because deep down, I knew this was bigger than me. Then, one morning, I received a message from Maxwell's team. The unit is ready. Through my chest. Weeks later, after clearing customs and paperwork, a crate arrived at my facility in California. It was surprisingly compact, about the size of a mini fridge. Unmarked, unassuming, and yet I knew what it contained could be the future of energy. As I opened the crate, there it was, the MSED. Smooth matte casing, minimalistic design, and a faint hum that seemed alive even before activation. I remember standing there in silence for a few minutes. It felt like holding a bridge between two worlds, one bound by wires, batteries, and dependence, and another that promised freedom. I powered it on for the first time, connecting a small light array and a laptop setup. The system blinked, the lights flickered, and then everything stabilized. No grid, no solar, no fuel, just power. Endless, silent, self-sustained power. In that instant, disbelief turned into awe. I wasn't looking at theory anymore. This was tangible, measurable, real. My mind flooded with possibilities. If one MSED could power this, what could a scaled version do? Homes? Businesses? Vehicles? The implications were staggering. Still, as an early adopter, I had to separate emotion from evaluation. I began testing it systematically, measuring voltage stability, thermal output, and load behavior. Every reading pointed to the same conclusion: this thing worked, and not in the way conventional devices did. It didn't just store energy, it seemed to generate it continuously. The results defied traditional equations, but the evidence was there. For days, I kept it running, lights on, equipment powered, systems stable, no loss, no decline. It was like watching the future hum quietly in the corner of my lab. But the more I observed, the more I realized this wasn't just about personal discovery, it was about responsibility. Because owning something like this comes with questions and consequences. Who controls such technology? How do we ensure it's used ethically, not monopolized or suppressed? I started documenting everything. Every test, every observation, every anomaly. Transparency, I believed, was key. So I decided to share my journey, to tell the story not from the perspective of a scientist or a businessman, but as a witness to change. The MSED wasn't a myth anymore. It was real, it was here, and it worked. Integrating it into daily life was the next step. I used it to power my small workshop, a charging station, and even an electric bike setup. The efficiency was remarkable. It stayed cool, consistent, and silent, unlike any power source I'd seen. Every time I plugged something in, it felt like breaking another chain of dependency. No grid bills, no noise, no interruptions. Just energy, pure, endless, and self-replenishing. Friends who visited couldn't believe it. They'd ask, "Where's the cable? Where's the battery backup?" And I'd just smile, pointing to the MSED sitting quietly in the corner. This little device had transformed the way I viewed power itself. And it wasn't lost on me that this innovation came not from Silicon Valley, but from Africa, a continent often underestimated, yet brimming with brilliance. Maxwell Chikumbutso had done something few dared to believe possible. He didn't just build a machine, he built hope. And as the first American to own one, I felt the weight of that hope resting in my hands. This wasn't about nationality or ownership. It was about connection between ideas, continents, and visions of a sustainable world. But I also knew that this story had to be told responsibly. So I decided to document every step of the process to create a transparent record that could help others understand, question, and learn. Because revolutions don't start with silence. They start with curiosity shared. And I wanted this journey to inspire that same curiosity in others. As I began sharing my findings online, messages started flooding in. Some were supportive, others skeptical. People asked if it was safe, if it violated any physical laws, if it was a hoax. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I had proof that it worked. And I welcomed the questions because questioning is the foundation of progress. In the weeks that followed, I continued to test the MSET across different scenarios, outdoor setups, off-grid applications, emergency power backups. It performed consistently, no matter the load or location. One night, during a regional power outage, my property stayed lit. Neighbors noticed. They came by, curious. When I told them the story, they couldn't believe it. They had heard of Maxwell Chikumbutso before, but never imagined his work would reach here to an ordinary neighborhood in America. That night, I realized something profound. Innovation doesn't need permission to cross borders. It only needs belief. MSED had made me rethink not just how we use power, but how we perceive it. For decades, we've associated energy with scarcity, bills, infrastructure, extraction. But this little box whispered a new narrative. Energy can be abundant, clean, and free. And that's what terrifies the old systems. Because if self-powered devices become mainstream, entire industries will have to change. No more dependency, no more centralized control, just individuals empowered to generate their own electricity. That's the real revolution, and it's already begun. Still, I know this journey is far from over. I'm continuing to log every hour of MSED operation, every change in efficiency, and every potential integration model. There's a long road ahead of testing, collaboration, and adaptation. But I believe it's a road worth traveling, because this isn't just a story about technology. It's a story about faith, in human ingenuity, in bold ideas, in the courage to try something new when the world doubts you. And in that sense, my journey mirrors Maxwell's. He believed when no one else did. He built when others dismissed him. And now his creation sits here, running silently, proving that faith in innovation is never misplaced. To everyone watching, I say this: don't wait for permission to believe in change. The future rarely comes announced. Sometimes it arrives in a simple box, quiet, compact, and humming with the potential to rewrite everything. And if you ever find yourself questioning whether the world can change, remember this story, because it already has. This is my journey, the story of becoming the first American to acquire the MSED. But it's not just my story anymore. It's ours. It belongs to everyone who believes that power, true power, begins with possibility. Stay tuned, because this is only the beginning.